Hello and welcome to Veda. So last night I finished book 3 of the Dark Tower series, The Wastelands. And I have to say, like, out of the original 3, and I call them that because I got them in a box set. So there was, at the time, there was only the 3 books. So, you know, that's how I think of them, as the original 3 and then the ones after that. Because when I started the Dark Tower series, it was just these 3, and then Wizard and Glass came out shortly after that. But of the original 3, this one I think has to be my favorite. Like, I do love the Gunslinger for what it is, but it's a little disjointed because it's, you know, a series of short stories that are written over a great deal of time. And this one, The Wastelands, I feel like King finally has his head in the right direction of where he's taking this saga of his. You know, we've got Eddie and Susanna are with Roland. He is teaching them the ways of the Gunslinger. But at the same time, similarly to the drawing of the 3, we start off with Roland in kind of a bad place. Previously it was physical. This time it is mental. Because due to his actions at the end of the drawing of the 3, he is now kind of literally of two minds. Because his actions in the drawing of the 3 saved Jake Chambers from originally being killed, which kept him from coming to Roland's world all the way back during the Gunslinger. So now it's like a double exposed photograph in his head where Jake was there and Jake wasn't there. And like, Eddie doesn't remember Roland talking about Jake, even though we know for sure that Roland was, you know, in his delirium talking about Jake and like constantly. But in this new reality, Jake was never there. So now Roland is essentially going crazy because he saved Jake. At the same time, in the New York of 1977, where Jake is, he's having the exact same thing. Because his mind does the same thing because Roland saved him. So in that moment where he was originally supposed to be pushed in front of the car, he thinks it's going to happen. He knows it's going to happen, and then it doesn't happen. So from that point on, he, like Roland, is living this kind of like double exposed life, and that's where we start things. From there, things get deliciously weird. We have some callbacks to the drawing of the 3, things that were, you know, ideas that were created there that are again used. You get more prophetic dreams. Eddie and Susanna both have them, as well as Jake, who just feels drawn to certain elements in certain places, and you know, you find out their meaning throughout the course of the book. And again, I don't want to go through and spoil things for people who want to read it, but this one is, I think, my favorite so far, because I've read Wizard and Glass, but I haven't read the rest of them, so one of the other ones might still pique my interest, and Wizard and Glass might actually take the lead again once I reread it, but as it stands, The Wastelands is my favorite of the Dark Tower books. Some of the highlights in this one are, well, I have to, of course, mention Oi, the Billy Bumbler. Oi is, like, just such a great character. He's, like, this great addition, because one of the things about the Dark Tower is it is very much in the realm of that almost, I don't want to say children's lit, but that like epic serial storytelling that you get in a lot of children's storytelling and young adult storytelling, or things that you read as a child or young adult. And I think, you know, this is King kind of doing his like grown-up version of one of those, because you know he's even said that, you know, this whole series was essentially his attempt to write a Lord of the Rings-esque, like something on the scale of Lord of the Rings. And I feel like he grasped this perfectly, because one of the things about Lord of the Rings that made it so fascinating was this world. You had these races, these old races of beings like the elves, who you know, their time was coming to an end and the world was moving on, which is a phrase that you hear constantly in the Dark Tower, especially when they're in Roland's world, because that world has moved on. And you see signs of it everywhere. There was, you know, this once great society that's now, everything's now falling apart. It's like a post-apocalyptic wasteland, depending on where you go. It's this grand, epic scale that King manages to pack into these books, and I love it. One of the other things we get in the Wastelands is the Quartet, as they are called. One of many, the group that Roland has put together, finally starts to travel the beam to the Dark Tower, and it's the beam of the bear. And they actually meet a guardian of the beam, which does not end well for the guardian. Again, I don't want to give too many spoilers, but it's pretty epic. I keep using that word. It's the only thing that I can really think of that would really justify the scale is epic. And there we have it. Book 3 of the Dark Tower series is now complete. My reread of this one is done. And instead of moving directly to Book 4, Wizard and Glass, I'm actually going to take a small break from the Dark Tower, but not leaving Stephen King entirely. I'm going to start reading The Stand. Because having read Wizard and Glass, I know that both The Stand and Eye of the Dragon both connect, in the grand scheme of things, to the Dark Tower books. So what I want to do is read The Stand, then read Wizard and Glass, then read Eye of the Dragon. And I've never actually read either of these books, so this will be first time reading on either of these. I have seen the miniseries of The Stand, which, I mean, you know, you get the crux of it. Like, I understood what was going on in Wizard and Glass, knowing I knew enough about The Stand from the miniseries to get what was being referenced. And that's actually something I picked up in the Wastelands this time around, because there was a little connection that I didn't make regarding the TikTok man and his eventual savior, because I didn't know what the reveal was going to be in Wizard and Glass until now. But going back and reading it again, I was like, aha, I see what King did there. I see what he was trying to do. I see. Yes, I noticed. It's one of those things, like, probably had I read The Stand back in the day, I would have gotten it then, but it wasn't fresh in my mind when I was reading these books the first time through. So I've since watched the miniseries again, so it was a little fresher in my mind, and I caught the connection that I didn't the first time around. And that's one of the things I really like about King's writing, especially with the Dark Tower series, because he does go for all these, like, interconnected little pieces, and, you know, like, this touches off of this, and this touches off of this, and this over here, and this, and, like, it's all connected. And that's the kind of storytelling I actually really enjoy, where it's like, it's not dependent on you knowing every single reference, but for the people who do get them, it's that little kind of, that wink and nod, that kind of tip of the hat saying, hey, thanks for being a loyal reader. And now that I've finished the first 3 books of the Dark Tower, I'm going to start with The Stand, because, of course, there's part of Wizard and Glass that is very dependent on having read The Stand. Like, it's not 100% dependent on it, but, like, you get a lot more enjoyment out of Wizard and Glass having read The Stand, because you get a lot more of the references and you know what's going on. So I'm going to take a small Dark Tower break just to read The Stand, and then I'm going to jump back in with Book 4, Wizard and Glass. So I will let you know how things go with that, because The Stand is a pretty thick book, and how many pages is this thing? Haha, 1,100. Okay, so, like, twice the length of this one. Of course, it's the paperback, so it's, you know, gonna be, it's probably, roughly, it's probably about the same, honestly, thinking about it. I don't know, I've never seen a hardcover of The Stand, so I don't know how thick it is. I just know the paperback is very thick. So, we'll see how this goes. That's all I have for you today. As always, I hope you're all well, and I will see you tomorrow. Epic. So big. I'm not gonna use that. No.